This is the Action Movie Guys podcast, bringing you action movie reviews from across the decades, plus box office numbers and insight like never before. And now, your hosts of the Action Movie Guys podcast, Alex and Nate.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 220 of the Action Movie Guys podcast. I'm your host, Nate, and this is my co-host,
Alex Figueroa.
And on this episode, we are continuing on with our video game adaptation action films with a little movie from 2016 called Assassin's Creed, based on the game called, get this, Assassin's Creed. Now, Alex, have you ever seen this movie? And B, have you ever played the games that it was based on?
All right, so I never played, all right, answer your first question. Never saw this movie at all. So this is the first time watch. Two, in terms of the video game, I never played this version of the video game, but I played Black Flag and Valhalla. So I played those
the later
games.
Entries.
Yeah, but not the original, what this movie is based off of. I never played those.
Okay,
so, yeah.
Very good. I played a little bit. My brother played a lot. I played a little bit part 2, Assassin's Creed 2. This one is more based on the first one. Throughout this review, I'm going to give some insight because my brother watched a little bit with me and was explaining certain things like this is what this is and that's how. So as far as accuracy, we'll get into it a bit, but this is only my second time watching this. I saw it at the theater and then I watched it now for this review. So before we do that, you already know we got to give you some Rotten Tomatoes scores. Now this thing is not good as far as the scores go.
Yeah.
Very low. This has a 19% critic score and a 42% audience score. So pretty bad on both. Under 50%. I say 50% or higher audience is you're fine, but critics 19. Surprise and not surprising to me because it's a video game movie, but surprising to you? I don't know.
It is surprising. And this is what I wanted to say with the Resident Evil franchise. What is surprising is if the movie is good, I believe let's say this, if the video game movie is more accurate to the game, right? The audience score will reflect it. The fact that Assassin's Creed has a fan base beyond fan bases. I mean, these people got tattoos of the shit. I mean, they got the coats, they got the, knives under their coats. Like, this is a big franchise. If I would have saw this number being high in the audience, I would have been like, wow, this movie actually reflects that. But the fact that it's a 48, that tells me like, they must have missed something making this movie that the audience that play these video games did not gravitate to it. And for someone like me that never played the game, I kind of understand why that number is kind of low.
Okay. Well, I would say the more surprising one to me is the critics because this thing got like an amazing cast. Like Michael Fassbender is in the lead. Marion Cotillard, an Oscar winner, is the female lead, basically. Jeremy Irons is like the main villain in this movie. And you even got Brendan Gleeson in a small role, Michael K. Williams. It's got a really awesome cast, legitimately. So let's talk about it. Let's see if we thought they went wrong or if they did some stuff right. You get to go first, of course, with our lead character. In this one, he's different. His name is different than the game. In this movie, his name is Cal Lynch. What did you think as Michael Fassbender as Cal?
So Michael Fassbender, he's a good actor. Great actor. Great actor. The character himself, I did not know what the hell I was watching. And I'm going to be really honest with you. This is the third time me watching this. I had to stop it 3 times watching this movie. And I was very confused with the character. The character, he committed crimes, and I know they had to take his DNA to go through his ancestry, and they have to use his past life to find this apple, right? I hope I figured that damn thing out. And I was just like, okay, cool. But it takes place in the Spaniard era, the Spain. So it's mad Spanish all over the place, what I love. I was like, that's cool. 15th century. I believe it was like 15th century, right? I think it was 15th century the film takes place in. I was like, that is cool. But in terms of his character, I mean, he's very hard-nosed. He's very good. He knows where he's at when he's in the present time. He's he doesn't believe what's going on is real. This whole thing with the virtual reality, like we get the whole thing, like the Matrix, when they plug in and they go, this is not possible. And then they're like, these people are crazy. I liked him. I thought he was good. I thought the character was fine. But the problem is that I couldn't engage with him because it wasn't as clear for me, someone that never played the game. I don't know what I was watching. In the beginning, you see him and his father. His father kills the mother. And then Jeremy Irons is after him or the father. They're after this apple. But it's like not clear at all until the final 20 minutes of the movie. That's when I figured out the entire thing. And I was like, this is a poor written character from Michael Fassbender. So with that said, and I don't want to offend people because I like Michael Fassbender a lot. He's a great actor. He's my Magneto of this generation, but I gave him a 2 for decent. I don't think he was that good they didn't write a good character. I'll say it that way.
Don't worry about the people, because you know what? I agree with you. It's not his fault. It's not his fault.
Yeah.
Michael Fassbender didn't write the role himself. He's a good actor. This is a nothing character. Here's the problem. One, he seems bored, honestly, throughout most of the movie. Like, he seems bored to be in this movie. I don't think, he's a good enough actor that if you give him something to really chew on, I think he could deliver a good performance. I don't think he had anything to really chew on in this movie besides be physical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one problem I think is so they have the scene early where he's a kid and he sees his mom. Well, he doesn't see her get killed. He just sees her dead, right?
Yeah.
So he didn't watch his mom die. He just sees that she's dead and knows that her dad did it, or his dad did it. Then you fast forward all the way to when he's in jail for murdering somebody. And I think this movie could have used some scenes in between that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
How did that affect him when he was a kid? Why did he murder somebody? Who did he murder? What did they do? The movie's about 2 hours, but I think it's more focused. It spends more time focused on stuff that's not as crucial to the character development. It honestly could have been longer. Usually we're here and we're like, oh, they could cut out 20 minutes. I think they could have added 20 minutes as far as for backstory for him.
Yeah.
Because then he would have been more engaging. You literally are like, this dude's on death row in the first 10 minutes of the movie. He gets fake killed and then taken to this facility, and then it just throws you right into the plot. So I agree with you. I gave him a 2. Not his fault, but really just nothing you can latch onto with him where you could be like, oh, I'm ready to go on this journey with this guy. Technically he's a murderer, so he's not even a good guy. That makes it difficult to relate to him. So I agree with you. Yeah, we're on the same page. I gave him a 2 as well. All right, main villain. This is, of course, Jeremy Irons, who's the head of this organization, this shady organization, who turns out is Descendants of the Knights Templar, which that is from the video game. So what did you think of Jeremy Irons in this?
A 2. To be honest, look, another villain that is not clear on his path until the ending of the movie. The whole first half of the movie, nothing about this fucking apple came about until the ending of the movie when he was talking to that old lady and they were like, we're going to cut your funds of $3 billion. And he was like, well, I can get you the apple. And I was like, what is this apple that we're talking about now? And that's when the movie to me went, okay, now I understand they're using his blood so they could find where this apple is, the location of this apple. It not clear at all. For a villain not to have a clear sense of why they're doing what they're doing, didn't like it much, dude. Jeremy Irons was actually really good. Jeremy Irons is another great actor, great character. I thought he fit the role, but again, another poorly written villain into these video games. And I did not like it. I thought his motives, if there was a motive, it was just to get an apple. I didn't get it until the ending. When he really turned into the bad guy at the end when he got to the podium. And he was like, it's time to get rid of the Assassin's Creeds. And I was like, this is corny. And I was like, fine, it is what it is. But again, I slapped with another 2. I didn't like it. I thought his character was weak.
I have the same score as you. I also gave him a 2. Jeremy Irons is a great actor. Amazing. Love him. He's Scar. He'll always be Scar. Great voice. Just a great actor.
Simon Gruber.
He's Simon Gruber. He's Alfred twice.
Oh, yeah.
I love Jeremy Irons. Nothing wrong with Jeremy Irons. As a matter of fact, if you cast him, I'm slightly more interested in your movie. He's that good. The problem is, he's nothing. He has one name in the credit. His name is just Rickon in the credits. He doesn't even have, I don't know if that's his first name or if that's his last name. I have no idea because you don't know anything about this guy other than he's the head of this organization and he is the new head of the Knights Templar, who are basically to what you were mentioning. His whole motivation is to get this thing so that they can control free will, so they can control all the population on Earth. Because they tried to use, politics. I think they said it. They try to use politics. They try to use religion. And people just don't cooperate. And we need all the people to cooperate. So that's his main goal, to make all the people just have one vision, one, like a New World Order type thing. But that is so, of all villain goals, isn't that the most classic, basic one? To rule the world, pretty much. It's like Pinky and the Brain, man. Pinky and the Brain. And he's the brain. So I don't know. He doesn't fight anybody. He doesn't do any action. So we can't give him any score there. I gave him a 2 out of generosity because the performance is good. And at least, he does a good job leading this mysterious organization, but there's way too much mystery and not enough explanation for a lot of stuff. So
Right.
it makes the character suffer. Okay, what did you think of the action?
Action scenes is a 5. This is the strong suit of this. Again, it happens with these video game movies. The strong suit will be the action. And this one, I loved it. When he was in the, whatever the hell you call it, virtual reality Creed thingy, when he's the Assassin's Creed guy, I thought it was awesome when he's doing all the fighting, and it worked. I thought it was cool. Him and the girl, and they're fighting the dudes, and it's sticks and knives, and the knives under the coats, and they're doing this and stabbing
Animus
dudes in the necks.
is the name of that thing, the machine, the Animus.
The Animus. Whenever they were in that joint, I loved it. I was like, oh, this is crazy. I was like, it really made the movie fun. And I think, what I would have did different as a writer, I would have just let the movie, then put them in the machine, and the whole movie, you're in the enema. And I was like, that's cool. And I was like, that's to me what like I would have did the movie that he's inside the virtual reality thing. And I would have been like, that would have been cool. I liked it. The parkour through the roof, them jumping down, they threw the smoke bomb, and I was like, man, this is mad Batman. They snapping everyone's necks, they stabbing dudes to get the apple. And I was like, this is actually really cool. She stabbed her neck. She was like, for the Creed. And I was like, no, she was hot. I was like, damn. Again, I like those scenes. And then when he's out of the virtual reality, I kind of like that their persona got into their body. Like they I guess their ancestries just took over their body or something, or triggered something. But then they all started whipping ass. And I was like, this is cool. I liked it. I was like, this is actually pretty cool. But again, a little too late for me, because it kind of felt weird. I don't know, in the video game it does that, or they just added that for the movie effect. It was weird, but I liked it though. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was cool. When they all got their weapons from the vault, I was like, yeah, dudes are assed out. I was like, this is cool. But I slapped it a 5. I thought it was good. And Michael Fassbender was great.
One thing I'll agree, I'll just tell you right there, that's one thing my brother noticed. Like, they absolutely never do any real life action in the video games. It's all in the virtual. He's like some dude, as a matter of fact. He's not a fighter. He's like a guy. And his ancestors are these ones who are these assassins. So the fact that all of a sudden all these dudes in the jail are like master killers is not accurate. Video game accurate. Is it cool in the movie? Yeah. But is it accurate? No. So I agree with you to an extent. I gave it a 4. I think the action's really good. I think the choreography is really good. I think it's shot really good. One thing I will give credit for, I was going to save it for overall, but I'll just do it now. I feel bad for the director of this movie, because he's a good director. And you could tell. It's shot really well. It's a little dark, but it kind of works. I think visually it works with the tone of the movie, and the action scenes are really good. The choreography is good. I agree. The parkour scenes is cool. The girl where she's like fighting those two dudes, and then she just like sticks her hands out each way and stabs him with the. Yeah, that was awesome.
That was cool.
Yeah. A lot of good fights. Here's my only problem why it gets a 4. This baby is PG-13, and there's no blood in this movie. And he kills Jeremy Irons at the end by rubbing his knife across his neck, and not a drop of blood comes out. As a matter of fact, he rubs it over his shirt, and then when they show him on the floor, there's still no blood. And my brother is like, wait a second. These games are rated mature. Like, they're rated M for mature. Why is this movie PG-13? And I said, that's a really good question. I think if they went over the edge and just made it like, it doesn't have to be a gore fest, but like, give me some blood when these people are getting stabbed. You know what I mean? Even if it's a soft R, it would have been a 5 for me. But I can't, I'm like, man, they're just killing people left and right, but there's no, I needed that little bit of R-rated goodness for me to go over the top. You know what? As a matter of fact, I'll give it 4.5. I'll just take half a point for the no blood. If it had blood, 5. But as is, great choreography. And it's funny you mentioned the parkour. If you didn't know, this game's like a spiritual successor to the Prince of Persia games. You know, they don't make those anymore. And this was kind of the replacement franchise. So they included that kind of the parkour stuff and jumping off of high things and landing in like the little hay baskets and stuff like that. Like, it was cool. It was really cool. I agree with you. This is the strength of the movie by far.
To answer your question about the rated R PG-13, did you feel like the studio interfered to grab more kids because this is a video game? For them to be like
1,000%. It really felt like the studio was like, hey man, we need a PG-13 because we got to sell as many tickets. But the fact is, like, the people who played the games were a slightly older audience anyway. Yeah. So they should have just went for the R. to be honest, and maybe lower the budget a little bit.
Yeah, it's 125 million. I think
that's crazy, and it looks good.
125.
It doesn't look cheap. It looks good. The effects are good. The cast, they probably spent a lot of money on the cast, but maybe make it 100 instead of 125 and give us an R. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Hard R, man.
Hard R. All right.
I agree.
Storyline.
Oh, a 2. I'm not gonna give it a 1. Once you figured out what was going on, I was like, it's decent. Wasn't great. It's not good. It's not great. I thought it was a decent storyline. In the beginning, I had trouble trying to catch up. It was hard for me. I felt like I was Michael Fassbender. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I felt like I was
in the game. Confused. Me and him.
We're both in there. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck is going on? So for me, I just felt like the movie started to pace well. Once you figured out what was going on, then I started to get intrigued. Then towards the ending, I said, now I understand. The movie is actually not as bad as I thought. But my problem is it was really hard to get the motor running, if you understand what I mean. It was like slow, and then it starts to gallop. And you're like, oh, okay. Oh, fine. Now this is where we're going. Okay, great. And I don't like movies like that, where it takes a while to be like, oh, this is where we go. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So for me, there were certain things I think if they would have executed very well, I think, like, again, you're absolutely right. They should have added more scenes to understand why he did what he did. They could have even planted him killing somebody, like, for all we know, because of his ancestry. They could have faked the shit, right? Like, he killed someone, but technically he didn't, so they could get him in his wing. I would have been like, okay, cool. It is what it is, but at least we understand. The father thing at the end, they gave him the knife to kill his father. I was like, why? Like, what was like, he wasn't going to do it anyway. Like, even, like, I was sitting there and I was going, he's not going to kill his dad. Like, you could see it. Like, even his avatar, like the bloodline thing. Yeah. If he's an Assassin's Creed dude, he's not going to kill his dad because his dad was a Creed. And I was just like, it wasn't a shock to me when he gave him the knife and goes, oh, you should, he killed your mom. And I was like, he ain't going to do it, bro. Like, I stood there and I was like, he ain't doing it. I was just like, that was weak. The villain was very horrible in this movie. There was no like I said, no motivation, but it was for the apple. They showed this old lady once and then twice at the end. Why they focused on her and her group, I didn't get it. One thing I thought they fell flat on, when they showed all the creeds switching the knives and giving it to each other at the end, and I was like, oh my God, they're gonna destroy all these people. And they didn't do nothing. And then at the end, there's 3 of them. Yeah. I was so lost. I said, wait a minute. I was like, this shit is going to get crazy at the end. And when he sliced the dude in the throat, everyone's running for chaos. And then at the end, you give me 3 buffoons on top of a roof. I said, what happened to everyone in the beginning that was giving each other knives? I was like, what happened to that? Were they setting up for something and went, this is not going to work. We got to cut those scenes out. We're going to leave that out. But maybe anyway, I'm sorry. I give it, that was the, that was the R-rated. They cut it out. They were like, wait a minute, this is too bloody. We got to cut that out. In terms of that storyline, a 2. It's a 2. All right, it was decent.
Yeah, I don't disagree with much that you said, to be honest. I think on paper, this is a great premise. The game has a great premise. Centuries-long battle between the Knights Templar and this group of assassins. This brotherhood of assassins who's preventing them from controlling the earth. And that's a great starting point. And then you develop a technology that allows people to go back to their ancestors so that they can relive history to find information out. Great sci-fi. This is a great sci-fi action premise. It really is. The problem with the movie is that it's so convoluted and it does not do a good job of explaining any of this stuff. Like, if you didn't play the game, if you didn't play those first games, you're like, what is this? Even the technology of him going back, they don't really explain it. They strap this thing in, and all of a sudden, he's back in time. And they're like, yeah, you can go back and look and do your ancestor stuff. That's it. It doesn't say how it works, why it works. Things like that matter. And somehow this movie has a lot of exposition, and yet nothing is explained, which that's kind of weird. For all the time they spend explaining stuff, they don't explain enough somehow, and you're still confused. So yeah, I gave it a 2 as well. It's overly complicated and yet doesn't explain anything, which sounds like an oxymoron, but it's true. Like, they talk a lot, but they don't say anything. You know what I mean? And it could have been amazing. Really, it's a great Assassin's Creed was a great game to pick to do an adaptation of, and they dropped the ball, and now they're not going to do another one. Maybe in 20 years or something like that, but not anytime soon. So bit of a misfire as far as the story goes. Okay, overall.
2. It was you're right. It's a misfire. Horrible explanations for any of the characters or any of the storyline. For me, it just felt so flat at all. I mean, maybe there's people who are a fan of the film, but I know I'm not, and I don't own it. So I watched this digitally on Hulu for free. So thank God, because I think I would have been annoyed if I paid for this movie. Well, I know you paid. I know you got.
I got
the
someone
movie.
to throw it in on a Mercari bundle for free because I knew I had to review it. I was like, hey, look, if I bundle these two, will you also throw in Assassin's Creed? And he just said, sure. So I'm trading it though. Yeah, I did watch it on 4K.
You know it's bad when the guy goes, yeah, you could take Assassin's Creed.
So I don't have it on my page anymore.
Yeah, he was like, wait a minute, sure, you could take this crap because this movie is not even watchable crap. And that's bad. That's bad. We did 2 movies back to back now. Resident Evil Retribution and this movie. It's been a rough week of watching gaming video. We broke the streak of fun movies.
That's true.
Yeah, we did. Because I enjoyed the other one.
Hopefully it comes back next week.
Speed.
We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what's next week's movies, but I mean, besides last chapter, we'll find out when you say it. Look, overall, though, great characters, great actors. I say great actors that played these characters. But in terms of the storyline and character development, it just fell flat, horrible direction. That's all I got to say about it. It's a 2 for decent.
You know what? We're on the same page here. I also gave it a 2, but this one hurts a little bit to me because I just feel like it could have been really good. You know, sometimes we watch these bad movies and it's like, who thought of this? This is a horrible idea. This is a terrible cast. This is terrible action. This is terrible. This is not the case with this movie. It was so close to being good and just doesn't meet the mark in so many areas. You know, it should have been R-rated. Number 1, honestly, it should have been R-rated. It should have been a little bit longer. Like, even if there was a director's cut, that would have been cool, where it gives you backstory for these characters. There's no character development. There's no backstory. The whole movie seems like it takes place in a 3-day period. You know what I mean? Like, and there's no explanations for stuff. It looks really nice. Like, it's shot well. It's directed well acted. Great cast. Like, you had everything in the pot to make a good meal, and they just forgot to, season it. And so it just kind of is very bland. And the main, what was the most biggest sin of this movie is that it's really boring. It's not fun. It's not fun. And the subject matter should lend itself to some fun. That character, he was too serious, Michael Fassbender. He had no fun in this movie. And at least if you make the character a little bit more engaging, then when he does go back in time, he's like, oh, I can't wait to go back and do it. He was just like, I'll go in there and just look for the apple or whatever. It became a revenge thing, and it was too, that was the biggest sin, is that it was boring and it wasn't engaging and entertaining. So I gave it a 2. You gave it a 2. What is your total points?
Oh, and then that cringing moment is when he was singing. He was God. And I love you. And then he threw him into the thing. And I was just like, what is... I didn't know what was going on. And she was trying to talk to him. And it was just like... It was bad. Anyway, it was horrible. You know what's funny? This movie reminded me of Reminiscence. But Reminiscence was way better. They had that whole technology. Huh?
Yeah, I prefer that movie too. Oh, to see memories and stuff. Yeah, it's a great premise. If you execute it better, it could be good.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. My total points is a 13 out of a 25. So, yeah.
We're close. I have 12 and a half. 12 and a half out of 25. It's almost good, and they end it like they're going to be some sequels. We ain't never going to get a sequel to this garbage because it bombed. It did not make any money. The guy on Mercari gave it to me for free, basically. So that tells you all you need to know, and it will be traded as soon as I go to the used movie store. So with that being said, next week, we got to pray for some fun. Now, one of these movies I remember thinking was kind of fun in a very B-movie bad way. And the other one I remember thinking was okay. So we will be watching some Resident Evil, the final chapter, finishing with the Resident Evil franchise, and then wrapping up our game adaptation movies. I know you haven't seen this movie. We're going to be doing a little DOA, Dead or Alive. Now, this is a fighting game. This is a fighting game. But this movie, Alex, let me tell you why you're going to like this movie. Because this got super hot chicks in it. Super hot chicks that fight. And it's like a fighting. It's just literally a fighting game. So we were going to do some DOA. I saw this movie when I was younger and thought, this movie's amazing. And in a stupid way. In a stupid way. Don't get me wrong. But in a very B movie way, I was like, this movie's pretty awesome. We'll see if it holds up. As grown-up me is very different than younger me. So those are our 2 movies next week. We're wrapping up all video game adaptations, and we have our new topics that we'll get into at the end of that show.
All right, guys, there you have it. That is coming up next week. If you want to follow us in a social media account, please follow Nate over on Instagram at Netflix Reviews. Check out the podcast with him and his friends called Netflix Movie Reviews. Anything Action Movie Guys, head over to youtube.com/Geeks and Flicks for the video version of the podcast. If you guys want to pick up some merchandise, some Action Movie Guys t-shirts and Geeks and Flicks t-shirts, head over to www.geeksandflicksstore.com. Other than that, he is your host,
Nate from Netflix Reviews.
I'm his co-host, Alex Figueroa. Be awesome to each other and geek out.